We're going to seam this with a cloth Dutchman. Cloth Dutchman is a more traditional way to seam your flats. It works best with soft flats made of muslin because you're putting a muslin seam on them. And if you have the muslin seam going with the muslin fabric flats, it's going to blend the best. It can certainly be done in hard flat construction. It takes a little more time, a little more dry time, about as much dry time as joint compound. No sanding involved with the cloth Dutchman. It's just 3 materials you're going to need: the cloth, the glue and water mixture, and paintbrushes. I like my muslin to be 4 to 6 inches. This is about 6 inches. It doesn't need to be this big, but it doesn't want to be too tiny either. The bigger it is, probably the easier it's going to be to blend in. If you were concerned about this being a different surface and painting and taking paint differently than your flats, you can build your flats and cover them with muslin. Well, the reason being is that you've got muslin here and muslin there, and the painting blends a whole lot easier. The paint takes differently to the raw wood versus the freshly sized and shrunk fabric. And if you've ever painted a brand new soft flat, you'll find that some of your blending techniques, they blend so well on a brand new fresh cloth canvas, and they don't quite blend the same on a hard piece of lumber. We want to have this piece of muslin be a little bit longer, maybe a little bit taller. We can trim it off later. I'm gonna get it down to the bottom here, right about there. And with the muslin, you want to tear it. You can get a scissors and notch it at first if you can't tear it, but you need to tear it because if you cut it, you're going to get a very hard edge. And if you tear it, to get these little threads of fabric, and the little threads of fabric are going to blend with my technique, and that's going to make this disappear under paint. So I'm going to tear it right here where I marked it. You need to get all these little stringies out of the way because those will give you hell in your process. You want to take and mix it with 50% white glue. You don't need to use wood glue. The only difference between Elmer's wood glue and Elmer's white glue is that the Elmer's wood glue, the yellow glue, has additives in it that make it not gum up your sandpaper when you're sanding your wood projects. The white glue will gum up with the sandpaper in your sanding devices. We're not sanding here, but it's just also cheaper than the yellow glue, so we don't need to waste the more expensive material. There are different brands of yellow glue, the Gorilla Glue, the Tight Bond, and they are a little bit stronger than your standard Elmer's wood glue or white glue, but the Elmer's wood glue and white glue are pretty much interchangeable in terms of strength. Both of them provide a strength of a bond stronger than your wood. If you use either in your woodworking projects, the wood is going to break before the glue releases. And that's the case with either one. The Tight Bond and the Gorilla Glue are just even stronger. I've put about maybe ½ an inch of water in here. My glue mixture for Dutchman, I want to be 50-50 glue and water. So I'm going to pour about that much of the glue into it. I'm probably making way too much than I need to here. That's double. I've just doubled my height. I'm going to stir it up, get the water and the glue mixed. We will have 3 consistencies of glue depending on which technique and process you are doing. If you are gluing your muslin to your flat for a soft flat, you want to just put a little bit of water in there so that it's not full on 100% thick glue. So maybe, 10 to 1 glue and water. A little bit of water just to make it go on a little bit smoother because you want to actually glue that material onto your flat. Dutchman, you need a little bit more flexibility. You want it to adhere, but it doesn't need to be a permanent thing because you're going to be tearing it off at strike and reusing your flats. When you are sizing your flats, you're going to use an even thinner mixture of water, just enough glue to help seal in the fabric. That's pretty well mixed. The problem with this is that it's going to go on and it's going to go on clear. If I mix a little bit of pigment in, just a little bit of coloring, I'm going to be able to keep track of where I'm going and where I've been, rather than the clear glue. When we're doing Dutchman or any sort of glue material, we want to not grab our best, nicest brush. The nice brushes are just gonna get filled with glue, and I guarantee you, you're never gonna get all the glue out of that brush, and you're just going to ruin it. So don't use your nice brushes, the ones that have a lot of flex. These are to be saved and cherished and held onto for good scene painting. So don't ruin a good brush. You can get yourself a couple of junk brushes. I have these that are hanging up and are labeled glue brushes. paintbrushes, but there's not much of them left, but it will still work. It's still got a lot of movement in it. These are called chip brushes. They're really cheap. They're not going to be real good for most of your scene painting techniques unless you have a technique that incorporates the flaws of it. They make great glue brushes. And the other thing you can do is you can get your junky old brush here. This thing's been just thrashed. Yeah, this shouldn't even be in the paintbrush pile, but it's really, really destroyed. So remember how wide your fabric is, and I need to put the Dutchman glue material on past that. You want to spread this on, cover everything. It needs to be completely covered. If I can do the whole seam in once, that's great. I'm going to do it about half and half because I'm on a ladder. I think I can get that much done. It's important when I attach this that I smooth it off and then I make sure that my edges all feather out. I don't want the edges to curl under because that's going to be a hard seam that's going to be visible. So I want all those feathered edges to be feathered out. I'm going a little bit crooked here, so I'm going to fix that. I don't want any wrinkles in my fabric. I want it to lay nice and smooth. It will shrink a little bit. It's a messy job. I'm in the paint area, I'm making a mess on the paint area, so that's okay. Lay this down. Still trying to center it on the seam. Starting to curl under there, so I want to make sure it doesn't curl under anywhere. Make sure it sticks really nicely to the bottom. And then I'm going to go back with my Dutchman glue and go over the top of it again. Now it's real important that I go from the center and work my way out. I don't want to go from the outside and work my way in because I'm just going to pull the fabric over like that. That's not good. We want this to be glued down. We want those feathered edges to be nice and smooth, and that will make a nice joint that will take paint, and especially if it's a textured wall, it will not show up on stage. I don't need to get on the ladder for this top part. And that's a good Dutchman. We will let that sit overnight. It needs to dry. So we'll look at that the next time I'm here and we'll do some scene painting on top of it and show you how it disappears. But that is good. We have a hole here too, a hole that was drilled for probably an electrical cable to go through the wall. And we can patch that with a little piece of muslin. Dry fit it, make sure it's gonna fit. I could overlap on that if I would like. This is bigger than I need it to be, but it's probably a good size. I can also patch it on both sides. And if you have a soft flat that's got a tear, this is a great way to cover up a tear. Again, I put my glue mixture down liberally everywhere. Put the fabric on top. Smooth it out, make sure there's no wrinkles, make sure nothing's curling under. And I've now patched that hole. Voila. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time with more technical theater content.